I was scrolling through my phone when I saw it. A group text from my family discussing centerpiece colors for my brother's wedding. Everyone was there. Mom, Dad, my sister Brianna, aunts, uncles. Everyone except me in the conversation about an event I didn't even know the date for. My stomach dropped. I called my mother. Her voice was ice cold. Sorry, dear. This event is only for the people we actually love. My father added from the background. Some people just don't belong at family celebrations. I stood frozen in my childhood bedroom, the room I'd cleaned out years ago. Let me back up so you understand how I got here. My name is Deanna, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a financial consultant in Phoenix, and I've built a good life for myself. But it wasn't always like this. Growing up, I was the responsible one. The one who got straight A's, worked part-time jobs in high school, earned scholarships to college. I put myself through school with 2 jobs and graduated with honors. My parents never had to pay a dime for my education because I made sure of it. I wanted to make them proud. My younger brother Troy is 28. He's always been the golden child, the baby boy who could do no wrong. When Troy barely graduated high school, my parents celebrated like he'd won the Nobel Prize. When he decided to go to college, they paid for everything: books, tuition, housing, spending money. He dropped out after 1 semester. They said it was okay, he was finding himself. They paid for him to try again at a different school 2 years later. He dropped out again after 1 year. They said college wasn't for everyone. Troy has never held a steady job for more than 6 months. He's lived with various girlfriends over the years, always finding someone to support him. My parents never criticized this. They called him a free spirit. When I suggested he might need some direction or goals, my mother told me I was being judgmental. When I pointed out that I'd been financially independent since age 18, my father told me not everyone was as cold and calculating as me. That stung, but I got used to the sting. Last year, my parents almost lost their house. They'd refinanced poorly, taken out a second mortgage they couldn't afford, and fallen behind on payments. They were 68 and 70 years old, facing foreclosure. They didn't ask me for help. My sister Brianna, who was 26 and working as a yoga instructor, called me crying. The house is going into foreclosure, Deanna. What are we going to do? I flew home that weekend. I spent 3 weeks going through their finances, negotiating with their lenders, setting up a refinancing plan that would actually work. I calculated their budget, set up automatic payments, even prepaid 6 months of their mortgage to give them breathing room. It cost me about 40 hours of work and used skills I normally charged $300 an hour for. I did it for free because they were my parents. When it was done, my mother hugged me briefly and said, "Well, you're good at this sort of thing." My father nodded and went back to watching television. Troy, who'd been living in his girlfriend's apartment during all of this, never even called to say thank you. I told myself it didn't matter. Family helps family. That's what you do. 2 months ago, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. Troy showed up with his girlfriend Stephanie, a pretty brunette whose parents owned a chain of car dealerships in Scottsdale. She had money. A lot of it. Troy announced they were getting engaged. Everyone erupted in celebration. Champagne appeared. My mother cried happy tears. My father clapped Troy on the back and called him son like it meant something special. Brianna squealed and immediately started talking about bridesmaid dresses. I congratulated them genuinely. I was happy for Troy. Maybe marriage would be good for him. Maybe Stephanie would be the person who finally helped him grow up. I asked when the wedding would be. Troy said they were thinking 6 months. Spring wedding. Big celebration. I smiled and said I was looking forward to it. Over the next several weeks, I kept hearing things through the family grapevine. My cousin Madison mentioned that she'd been asked to help with wedding planning. My Aunt Carol posted on social media about going dress shopping with the bride. Brianna sent pictures to our extended family group chat, which I was part of, showing floral arrangements and venue options. But nobody ever asked me directly about anything. Nobody included me in the planning. I figured the invitation would come eventually. Maybe they were waiting to send formal invitations all at once. I didn't want to seem pushy or presumptuous by asking, so I waited. Then came the group text, the one that didn't include me. 15 family members debating whether the centerpieces should be ivory roses or blush peonies, discussing hotel blocks and rehearsal dinner venues, arguing about whether the cocktail hour should have a taco bar or a carving station. Normal wedding planning talk. Except I wasn't in the conversation. I read through the whole thread with shaking hands. My name was never mentioned. Not once. It was like I didn't exist. I called my mother. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice tight with annoyance. "What is it, Deanna?" "I'm busy." "I just saw the group chat about Troy's wedding," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I noticed I wasn't included. When am I getting my invitation?" There was a long pause. Then she sighed. That particular sigh she'd perfected over the years that made me feel like I was being unreasonable. "Oh, Deanna, you've always been so independent. We didn't think you'd care about all this wedding stuff. Besides, Stephanie's family is paying for everything, and they have a limited guest list. It's really just for family." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I am family," I said quietly. "You know what I mean," she said, irritation creeping into her voice. "Close family. People Troy actually has a relationship with. You're always so busy with work, always traveling. We just assumed you'd be too busy anyway." Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice in the background. He took the phone from my mother. "Stop being dramatic, Deanna. Some people just don't belong at family celebrations. You've always been on the outside looking in. That's just who you are. It's not personal. That's just how things are." He hung up. I stood in my living room, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. 20 minutes later, my sister Brianna texted me. "Look, it's not personal. Troy just wants his day to be perfect. Don't make this into a big thing. You know how you can be." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my father's words. Some people just don't belong at family celebrations. That's just who you are. Like my exclusion was a natural law of the universe. Like I'd been born marked as the outsider, and everyone had just accepted it. The next day, my cousin Madison called me. We'd always been close, more like sisters than cousins. She was crying. "Deanna, I need to tell you something. I should have told you weeks ago, but I was scared. When Troy and Stephanie were planning the guest list, Troy specifically said he didn't want you there. He told Mom and Dad that you make everything about yourself and your success, and that you make him look bad. He said having you there would ruin his day. And they agreed. They didn't even try to defend you. They just said okay and moved on." That was the moment everything crystallized. The rejection wasn't passive. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't about limited space or guest lists or budget constraints. My brother had actively, deliberately excluded me, and my parents had backed him up without a second thought. They'd chosen him over me, just like they always had, just like they always would. I thanked Madison for telling me the truth. Then I opened my laptop and booked a first-class ticket to Rome. The flight left in 5 days. I booked 3 weeks in Italy and Greece, staying at beautiful hotels, planning tours and experiences I'd always wanted to try. I maxed out my vacation time at work. I was going to miss Troy's wedding because I wasn't invited, but I was going to do it in style. The morning I left for Europe, I posted a photo on social media. Me at the airport, coffee in hand, boarding pass visible, with a caption that said, 3 weeks in Italy and Greece. Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones you plan for yourself. Life is beautiful. I turned off my phone during the flight. When I landed in Rome 13 hours later and turned it back on, I had 83 text messages and 27 missed calls. I ignored all of them. I checked into my hotel near the Spanish Steps, took a long shower, and went out to explore the city. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt light, free. Rome was everything I'd dreamed. I wandered through ancient ruins, ate pasta that made me want to cry with joy, drank wine at outdoor cafes, and took hundreds of photos. I posted them all. The Colosseum at sunset, the Trevi Fountain at midnight, me laughing with gelato, carefree and happy. My phone kept buzzing. Extended family members asking if I was okay, asking why I wasn't at the wedding, asking what had happened. I responded simply and honestly. I wasn't invited. I'm respecting their wishes and living my life. Enjoy the celebration. The responses ranged from shock to disbelief to awkward silence. Many of my aunts, uncles, and cousins hadn't known I was excluded. They'd assumed I was busy with work or had a scheduling conflict. When they realized I'd been deliberately left out, the family rumor mill went into overdrive. I could see it happening in real time through social media. Suddenly, people were questioning my parents' decisions, questioning Troy's character, questioning the whole family dynamic. My mother called 6 times in one day. I let it go to voicemail. Finally, I listened to her messages. Her voice was sharp, angry. "You're embarrassing us, Deanna. Everyone's asking where you are. Everyone's talking about this. You're making a scene. You're ruining your brother's wedding. This is so typical of you. Always making everything about yourself. Call me back right now." I deleted the message and blocked her number for the duration of my trip. Troy texted me for the first time in months. "You're being selfish. This is my day. You're trying to steal attention. Everyone's talking about you instead of celebrating me and Stephanie. This is exactly why we didn't want you there. You always make everything about you." I replied, "Enjoy your day with the people you actually love." Then I blocked him too. From Rome, I traveled to Florence. I spent days in museums, staring at Michelangelo's David, wandering through the Uffizi Gallery, eating ribollita and bistecca fiorentina. I felt like I was waking up from a long sleep. Every day away from my family, I felt stronger, clearer, like fog was lifting from my brain. In Florence, I met an American couple in their mid-60s at a small trattoria. Harold and Patricia were from Vermont, celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary by renewing their vows in Tuscany. We started chatting over wine, and somehow, I found myself telling them everything. The exclusion, the lifetime of being second choice, the realization that my family had never really seen me. Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. Her eyes were kind but firm. "I cut off my toxic family 30 years ago," she said. "My parents, my siblings, everyone. Best decision I ever made. You can't earn love from people who've decided not to give it. You can't fix broken people by breaking yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and build a life that doesn't include them." Harold nodded. "We've built our family from friends, from community, from people who choose to love us every day. Blood doesn't make family. Love makes family. And what you described isn't love, Deanna. That's obligation and guilt and manipulation. You deserve better." I cried that night in my hotel room, but they were good tears, cleansing tears. For the first time, I felt validated. 2 strangers had seen me more clearly in one dinner than my family had in 32 years. I extended my trip another week. I flew to Santorini and watched the most beautiful sunsets I'd ever seen. I hiked along the caldera, swam in the Aegean Sea, ate fresh octopus, and drank ouzo. I posted photos of blue-domed churches and whitewashed buildings and azure water stretching to infinity. I was living my best life, and I wanted everyone to see it. From Santorini, I island hopped to Mykonos, then to Crete. I explored ancient Minoan ruins, learned about goddesses who ruled before gods, felt connected to something older and wiser than the petty cruelties of my nuclear family. I read books. I journaled. I processed 32 years of pain in 3 weeks of solitude and beauty. On my last day in Greece, sitting at a cafe overlooking the harbor in Chania, my phone rang. It was Brianna. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Deanna, you need to come home. Everything's falling apart. The wedding's been canceled. Troy's in trouble. Mom and Dad are in trouble. Everything's a disaster. Please come home. We need you." I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no anger. Just a vast, empty space where family loyalty used to live. "What happened?" I asked, my voice flat. Brianna tried to explain through sobs, but I couldn't make sense of it. Something about debt and Stephanie leaving, and everything falling apart. I told her I'd be home in 2 days when my flight landed. Then I hung up. I added Croatia to my trip. 1 more week. 1 more country. I walked the walls of Dubrovnik, explored Diocletian's palace in Split, swam in waterfalls at Plitvice Lakes. I posted every moment. I wanted my family to see exactly how happy I was without them. When I finally boarded my flight back to Phoenix, I felt different. Stronger. The girl who desperately wanted her family's approval had died somewhere over the Mediterranean. The woman returning home knew her worth and wasn't willing to negotiate it anymore. I landed in Phoenix on a Tuesday afternoon. My apartment felt strange after nearly a month away, like a place that belonged to someone else. I unpacked slowly, did laundry, bought groceries. I ignored the 47 missed calls and 100+ text messages waiting for me. I needed 2 days to reacclimate, to rebuild my armor before facing whatever mess was waiting. On Thursday evening, I finally called Brianna back. She answered on the first ring. "Oh my God, Deanna. Finally. Where have you been? Why haven't you been answering?" "I was in Croatia," I said calmly, extending my vacation. "What's going on?" Brianna launched into the story, her words tumbling over each other in panic. Stephanie's parents had hired a private investigator to do a background check on Troy 1 week before the wedding. Standard procedure for their family, apparently, given their wealth. The investigator discovered that Troy had $75,000 in debt, credit cards maxed out, personal loans from predatory lenders, gambling losses from sports betting sites. He'd been living beyond his means for years, buying expensive clothes and electronics and experiences to look successful, all on borrowed money he had no way to repay. When Stephanie's parents confronted Troy, he admitted everything. He'd been lying to everyone, including Stephanie. He'd hidden the debt, the gambling, everything. He promised he'd fix it, that he'd get help, that it was under control. But Stephanie's parents weren't interested in excuses. They immediately withdrew all funding for the wedding. Every penny. The $50,000 they'd already put into deposits and planning was gone. They told Stephanie to call off the engagement. They forbade the marriage. They said Troy was a liar and a financial disaster waiting to destroy their daughter's future. Stephanie broke off the engagement 2 days before the wedding. She returned the ring, moved out of the apartment they shared, blocked Troy's number. She was done. Completely and irrevocably done. But the wedding vendors still needed to be paid. The venue wanted $15,000. The caterer wanted $8,000. The photographer, florist, DJ, all of them wanted their money. Deposits were non-refundable. Contracts had been signed. Mom and Dad had put some of the deposits on their credit cards, thinking Stephanie's parents would reimburse them. Now they were on the hook for $30,000 they didn't have. Troy had a complete breakdown. He moved back in with Mom and Dad. "He's not eating, not sleeping, just crying all day. He's a wreck," Brianna said. And Mom and Dad are in a complete panic. They're 70 and 68 years old. They don't have $30,000. Their retirement savings are already almost gone. They're going to lose everything. I listened to all of this with a strange detachment, like Brianna was telling me about strangers. "And they want me to fix it," I said. It wasn't a question. Brianna hesitated. "You're good with money, Deanna. You know how to handle these things. You could negotiate with the vendors, set up payment plans, figure something out. They need your help. The same help they needed when they almost lost their house last year?" Brianna's voice got smaller. "Yes. The same family that didn't invite me to the wedding?" "That's not fair," Brianna said weakly. That was Troy's decision, and Mom and Dad backed him up. They said I don't belong at family celebrations. They said that's just who I am. Remember? Silence. I'm not helping, I said. This isn't my problem. Deanna, please. They're our parents. They're in serious trouble. They chose Troy over me my entire life. They can deal with the consequences of that choice now. I'm done. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt oddly calm. For once in my life, I was setting a boundary and holding it. The next day, my mother called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the tone she used when she wanted something. Deanna, honey, we need to talk. I know you're upset about the wedding situation, but this is bigger than that. This is a family crisis. We need your help. You mean the daughter who doesn't belong at family celebrations needs to help the family now? Her voice hardened. Don't be petty. This is serious. Your brother is suffering. Your father and I could lose everything we've worked for. You have the skills to fix this. You make good money. You could help us. I could, I agreed. But I won't. She sucked in a sharp breath. What did you say? I said no. You're not my problem anymore. How dare you? How dare you abandon your family in our darkest hour? You abandoned me first, I said. You just didn't think I'd notice because you did it slowly, over 32 years. You chose Troy over me every single day of my life. You made me feel worthless while you praised him for doing nothing. And when I finally built a life for myself despite you, you excluded me from his wedding and told me I don't belong. So no, I'm not helping. Live with your choices like I've had to live with mine. I hung up before she could respond. My father called an hour later. His voice was gruff, authoritative, the voice of a man used to being obeyed. We're family, Deanna. Family helps family. This is what you do. You step up. You do the right thing. You didn't treat me like family when you told me I don't belong at celebrations. Why should I act like you're my family now? Because I'm your father. Because we raised you and fed you and put a roof over your head. You owe us. I don't owe you anything. You did the bare minimum required by law to keep a child alive. Congratulations. That doesn't earn you loyalty when you spent 3 decades making me feel like I was worthless. He sputtered. You're being ridiculous. Dramatic. This is why Troy didn't want you at his wedding. You make everything about you. You always have. Perfect, I said. Then you don't need me now. Problem solved. I blocked his number. Over the next week, extended family members started calling. Aunts and uncles I barely spoke to, suddenly very concerned about family unity. Be the bigger person, Deanna. They're your parents. They made mistakes, but they're still family. This is what family does. You help. You forgive. You move on. Don't let pride destroy your family. I gave them all the same answer. My family destroyed itself long before I set any boundaries. I'm just refusing to light myself on fire to keep them warm anymore. Then my boss called me into her office. Deanna, I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity. We're opening a new branch in Seattle. We need someone to lead it. Someone smart, capable, with excellent client relations. I immediately thought of you. It's a significant promotion. 30% raise. Full relocation package. I know it's a big decision, but I think you'd be perfect for it. I stared at her. Seattle was 1,000 miles from Phoenix. 1,000 miles from my family. A fresh start. A clean slate. When do you need an answer? Take a week to think about it. But I'll be honest, Deanna. I hope you say yes. You've got a bright future here, and I'd love to see you grow with us. I walked out of her office feeling dizzy. The universe was offering me an escape hatch, a legitimate, professional reason to leave everything behind and start over. That night, my mother somehow found out about the job offer. She called from yet another new number, her voice shrill with panic. You'd abandon your family in our darkest hour? You'd move across the country and leave us to suffer? What kind of person are you? What kind of daughter does that? I looked at my phone. at this woman who'd given birth to me but never really seen me, and I felt nothing but exhaustion. "The kind of daughter you created," I said. "The one who learned that family is conditional and love has to be earned, and no matter how hard you try, you'll never be enough. That daughter. The one you made." I hung up and blocked the number. I accepted the Seattle job. My move date was set for 5 weeks out. I didn't tell my family. I wanted peace to plan my exit without their interference. I spent my evenings packing, sorting through belongings, deciding what to keep and what to leave behind. It felt symbolic. I was keeping the best parts of myself and leaving the damaged parts in Phoenix. 3 weeks before my move, someone knocked on my apartment door at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I opened it without checking the peephole, assuming it was a package delivery. Instead, my parents stood there. My father looked gaunt, his face gray. My mother's eyes were red and swollen. They looked like they'd aged 10 years in the month since I'd last seen them. "Can we come in?" my mother asked, her voice small. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. They walked in slowly, looking around my apartment like they were seeing it for the first time, even though they'd been here dozens of times before. We stood in uncomfortable silence for a long moment. "We're going to lose the house," my father finally said. His voice cracked. "We have nowhere to go. The bills from the wedding, the mortgage, everything. We can't keep up. We're going to lose everything. You're our daughter. You have to help us. Please." I felt something twist in my chest. They looked genuinely desperate, genuinely afraid. But then I remembered Patricia in Florence. "You can't earn love from people who've decided not to give it." "I helped you refinance the house last year," I said quietly. "I saved your home once already. I spent weeks organizing your finances for free. Where was my thank you? Where was my wedding invitation?" My mother's face hardened. "You've always been so cold, Deanna. So unforgiving. So calculating. We did our best raising you. We made mistakes, yes, but we tried. Can't you have some compassion? Some understanding? Your best was making me feel worthless while praising Troy for doing nothing. Your mistakes weren't little things. They were a lifetime of choosing him over me, of making me invisible. And now you want my money to clean up his mess. Again." "We're your parents," my father said, his voice rising. "We're old. We're scared. We're asking for help. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Before I could answer, there was another knock on the door. I opened it to find Brianna standing there, looking nervous. She glanced past me at our parents. "I texted her we were coming," my mother said defensively. "This is a family matter." Brianna walked in and immediately took our parents' side. "Deanna, they're going to be homeless. Actually homeless. They're 70 and 68 years old. You have the money to help. You could pay off the wedding debts and restructure their mortgage again. You could save them, but you're choosing not to. How can you live with that?" I looked at my younger sister, who'd always been the peacemaker, always trying to keep everyone happy. She'd never had to be the scapegoat because I'd filled that role so completely. "You've never been where I am, Brianna. You've never been the one who isn't enough, who doesn't belong, who gets excluded and erased. You were always included, always loved, always accepted. So don't tell me what I should live with." She flinched. "That's not fair. None of this is fair. But I'm done pretending it is." Brianna's eyes filled with tears. "You're heartless. I can't believe we're related. I can't believe you'd let them suffer like this." "Then don't be related to me. I'm clearly not family anyway. You all made that very clear." My parents and Brianna left an hour later, after more pleading and guilt and manipulation that I refused to engage with. I felt shaky and nauseated after they were gone, but I held firm. I didn't call them back. I didn't change my mind. The next day, I received a certified letter from a lawyer representing my parents. They were threatening to sue me for elder financial abuse, claiming I'd manipulated them during last year's refinance and now owed them compensation. The letter cited various statutes and made legal threats that sounded terrifying. I called my own attorney, a woman I'd worked with on client cases before. She read the letter and actually laughed. "This is completely baseless, Deanna. You have documentation of everything you did. You didn't charge them. You didn't benefit financially. You actually lost time and income helping them. This is a desperate attempt to intimidate you into giving them money. Send me everything you have from last year's refinance, and I'll draft a cease and desist letter. They won't pursue this. It's a bluff." The consultation and legal letter cost me $3,000. $3,000 to protect myself from my own parents. The absurdity wasn't lost on me. That same week, Troy posted on social media. It was a vague status about family betrayal and how sometimes people show you who they really are when you need them most. He didn't name me, but the subtext was clear. Within hours, I noticed mutual friends and distant relatives unfriending me on social media. People I'd known for years suddenly treating me like I was toxic. My cousin Madison called me, furious. "Did you see what Troy posted? The comments are insane. People are dragging you without even knowing the full story. They're saying you're cruel and selfish and heartless. Someone even said you should be ashamed to call yourself part of the family. Let them think what they want," I said tiredly. "The people who matter know the truth." But Madison's voice dropped to a whisper. "Deanna, I need to tell you something else. Something about Troy's debt. Something nobody else knows except me and my mom. And she made me promise never to tell. But you deserve to know. You deserve to know how deep this goes." My stomach clenched. "What is it?" Troy didn't just gamble and run up credit cards. 2 years ago, when Grandma died, remember how Troy was the executor of her estate? She'd left you and Brianna each $10,000 in her will. But when the estate settled, Troy told everyone there was less money than expected, that Grandma's medical bills and final expenses had eaten up most of it. You and Brianna each only got $2,000. Remember? I remembered. I'd been disappointed but accepted it. Medical care was expensive. Final expenses added up. These things happened. Madison's voice shook. Troy lied. He embezzled the money. He took your $10,000 and Brianna's $10,000 and kept it for himself. He forged some documents, manipulated the accounting, and stole from his dying grandmother's estate. My mom found out because she was helping with some of the paperwork, and she saw discrepancies. She confronted your parents. They knew, Deanna. They knew what he did, and they covered it up. They told my mom to keep quiet, that Troy needed the money more than you girls did, that it would destroy him if anyone found out. So they all just swept it under the rug and let you and Brianna think Grandma's estate had less money than it actually did. I sat down hard on my couch. The room spun. Troy had stolen my inheritance from our grandmother, and my parents had helped him hide it. For 2 years, they'd all known. For 2 years, they'd let me believe I'd received what I was owed. The betrayal was so deep, so systemic, I couldn't process it. "Are you sure?" I finally whispered. "I saw the documents," Madison said. "I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. I was scared of what it would do to the family. But after everything that's happened, you need to know the truth. They've been lying to you about more than just the wedding." After I hung up with Madison, I sat in the darkness of my living room for 3 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt cold, numb, like something fundamental inside me had frozen solid. I hired a forensic accountant the next day. It cost $5,000, but I needed proof. I needed documentation. I needed to know exactly what had been stolen from me. The accountant spent 2 weeks investigating Grandma's estate records, tracking financial transactions, comparing documents. When she presented her findings, they confirmed everything Madison had said. Troy had embezzled $20,000 total, 10 from me, 10 from Brianna, and my parents had helped him cover it up. I sat with the forensic accounting report for 3 days, trying to decide what to do. I could press criminal charges, elder financial abuse, estate fraud. Troy could go to jail. My parents could be charged as accessories. I could destroy what was left of my family with one phone call to the police. But before I could decide, My family made the decision for me. On a Wednesday afternoon, I came home from work to find 6 people sitting in my living room. My mother, father, Troy, Brianna, and 2 of my aunts. My landlord had let them in, thinking they were there for a surprise visit. They'd been waiting for an hour. "What is this?" I asked, my heart pounding. My mother stood, her face arranged in an expression of concern. "We're here because we love you, Deanna. We're worried about you, about your anger and your bitterness, about the way you're handling all of this. We think you need help." I stared at them. "This is an intervention? For me?" Aunt Carol nodded sympathetically. "We've all noticed changes in you, honey. The way you've pulled away from the family. The way you've refused to help your parents in their time of need. The coldness. The lack of compassion. These aren't normal responses. We think your success and independence have made you lose sight of what's really important. Family. Love. Forgiveness." I felt rage building in my chest, hot and bright, but I kept my face neutral. "Please, continue. I'd love to hear more about what's wrong with me." My father cleared his throat. "You're letting pride destroy this family, Deanna. You're punishing all of us because your feelings got hurt about a wedding invitation. That's childish. That's petty. We raised you better than this." Troy spoke next, his voice soft and wounded. He looked terrible. Thinner, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. "I know I hurt you," he said. "I was wrong about the wedding. I see that now, but I'm trying to fix my life. I'm in therapy. I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I'm working on myself. I'm getting help. I've hit rock bottom, and I'm trying to climb back up. But I need my family's support. I need your support. Please don't let our past mistakes ruin our future. Please don't abandon me when I'm trying to change." It was a good performance. Convincing. Several of my aunts had tears in their eyes. Even Brianna looked moved. But I'd seen this show before. Troy had always been good at playing the victim when it suited him. I walked slowly to my bedroom and retrieved the forensic accounting report from my desk drawer. I carried it back to the living room and dropped it on the coffee table. The heavy thud silenced everyone. "Before we talk about my bitterness and my pride and my lack of forgiveness," I said quietly, "let's talk about the $20,000 Troy stole from Grandma's estate. Let's talk about how he embezzled my inheritance and Brianna's inheritance. Let's talk about how Mom and Dad knew about it and covered it up. Let's talk about 2 years of lies." The silence was deafening. Troy's face went white. My mother's mouth opened and closed without sound. Brianna looked confused. "What?" she said. "What are you talking about?" I picked up the report and flipped to the summary page. Grandma left each of us $10,000. Troy was executor. He forged documents and kept the money for himself. You and I each got $2,000. We were told that was all that remained after medical expenses and final costs, but that was a lie. Troy stole $16,000 total, 8 from each of us. This forensic accountant confirmed it. Every detail, every transaction, every falsified document. I looked at Brianna. Her face had gone pale. She looked at our parents. "Is this true?" My mother tried to deflect. That was different. That was complicated. Troy was struggling. He needed help. We thought it was better to just handle it quietly, as a family, without making a big thing about it. "You let him steal from us," I said, my voice rising. "From your own daughters. And you helped him hide it. For 2 years. And you want me to talk about forgiveness? About family? About support?" Troy stood up. "I can explain." "Sit down," I said coldly. "You don't get to speak. You stole from your dying grandmother. You stole from your sisters. You gambled away $75,000. You lied to your fiancé. You've never held a job for more than 6 months. You've lived off other people your entire adult life. And somehow, you're still the victim in this family's eyes." I turned to my aunts. "You want to talk about what's wrong with me? Let's talk about what's wrong with this family. Let's talk about how Troy has been enabled and protected and excused his entire life while I've been criticized and dismissed and excluded. Let's talk about how I put myself through college while he dropped out twice on their dime. Let's talk about how I saved their house from foreclosure last year and didn't even get a thank you. Let's talk about how I wasn't invited to his wedding because I supposedly make everything about myself, when the truth is, I make him look bad by simply existing and being successful. I walked to my front door and opened it. I'm done. I don't owe any of you anything. Not money, not forgiveness, not my presence. You're not my family. You're people who share my DNA and have treated me like garbage my entire life. Get out of my apartment. Nobody moved. My mother's face twisted. You ungrateful, selfish little girl. After everything we've done for you. You haven't done anything for me except make me feel worthless, I said. Now leave before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. My aunts left first, both looking shell-shocked. Brianna stood slowly, staring at our parents like she was seeing them for the first time. The forensic accounting report was still on the coffee table. She picked it up, looked at Troy. You stole from me? Her voice was small. You looked me in the eye at Grandma's funeral and lied to me? Troy tried to approach her, but she stepped back. Don't come near me. She looked at our parents. And you knew? You helped him? My mother reached for Brianna, but she jerked away. She looked at me. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. They've been lying to me too. I know, I said gently. I didn't think you knew. That's why I wanted you to see the proof. My father stood, his face red with rage. If you don't help us, your father will die. His heart can't take this stress. The doctor says another shock could kill him. Do you want that? Do you want your father's blood on your hands? It was the final manipulation, the ultimate guilt trip, the last card they had to play. I looked at my father. This man who'd spent my entire life making me feel like I wasn't good enough, and I felt nothing. Your health is your responsibility, I said. Not mine. If stress is a problem, maybe stop creating drama. Maybe take accountability for your choices. Maybe face consequences like an adult, instead of trying to manipulate your daughter into rescuing you. Again. You'll regret this, my mother hissed. When we're gone, when it's too late, you'll regret treating us this way. I won't, I said, because I'll know I chose myself. I chose my peace. I chose my mental health, and that's not something I'll ever regret. They finally left, Troy nearly being dragged out by my father. The door closed behind them, and I locked it. Then I slid down to the floor and sat there, shaking. Brianna had stayed behind. She sat down next to me. I should have believed you sooner, she said quietly. I should have seen what they were doing. I'm so sorry. You were doing what you thought was right. You were trying to keep the family together. That's not your fault. She leaned her head on my shoulder. What do we do now? I'm moving to Seattle in 2 weeks. Fresh start, new job, clean slate. You're welcome to visit anytime. But I'm done with them. Completely done. Brianna was quiet for a long moment. I think I am too. 2 days after the intervention, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was my father's cardiologist. Mr. Baker had been brought to the emergency room. He'd had a cardiac event. I was listed as his emergency contact. Could I come to the hospital? I drove there on autopilot, my mind blank. When I arrived, my mother was in the waiting room, her face blotchy from crying. She saw me and stood. See what you did? Your cruelty is killing him. Your stubbornness. Your selfishness. This is your fault. I walked past her without responding and asked to speak with the doctor. Dr. Reyes was in his 40s, with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. He took me to a private consultation room. Your father is stable now. He had an episode of unstable angina. We've run tests, adjusted his medications, and we're keeping him overnight for observation. But I want to be clear with you, Miss Baker. Your father's condition is serious, but it's chronic. He has coronary artery disease that's been progressing for years. He's been non-compliant with his medications for months. He hasn't followed dietary recommendations. He skipped follow-up appointments. This event wasn't caused by stress. It was caused by years of poor health management and his own choices. So this isn't because of family drama or emotional stress? I asked. Dr. Reyes shook his head. Stress can be a factor in heart disease, but it's not the primary cause here. Your father has significant blockages that have been building for years. This was inevitable given his non-compliance with treatment. He needs to take his health seriously. But this isn't anyone's fault except his own choices regarding his medical care. I felt a weight lift off my chest. My mother's words echoed in my head. Your father's blood on your hands. But it wasn't true. It had never been true. Just another manipulation. Just another way to make me responsible for their choices. I went to my father's room. He was awake, looking pale against the white hospital sheets. Tubes and monitors surrounded him. He looked old, fragile. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, he said weakly. His voice was hoarse. For what specifically? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He was quiet for a long moment. For everything. Do you even know what you did wrong? Another pause. Longer this time. I favored your brother. I see that now. You didn't just favor him. You erased me. You made me invisible. You told me I don't belong at family celebrations. You backed him up when he stole from me. You've spent my entire life making me feel like I'm not enough. And when I finally set boundaries to protect myself, you tried to blame me for your heart problems. He started crying harder. I don't know how to fix this. You can't. Some things are broken forever. Some damage can't be undone. You had 32 years to see me, to value me, to love me. You chose not to. Now I'm choosing not to keep trying to earn something you were never going to give. Please, he whispered. Don't give up on me. On us. I already did, I said quietly. I gave up when you told me I don't belong. I'm just finally accepting it. My mother burst into the room, her face furious. Get out. You're upsetting him. You're making him worse. This is exactly what the doctor warned against. Actually, the doctor said Dad's condition is chronic and caused by his own non-compliance with treatment. Not stress. Not me. Him. His choices. My mother's face twisted with rage. But before she could respond, I left. Brianna was waiting in the hallway. She'd come when she heard about Dad. She followed me to the parking lot. I believe you now, she said. I see what they did, what they're still doing, what they'll always do. I'm done too. I'm done defending them. I'm done making excuses. They stole from me. They lied to me. They used me against you. I'm done. You don't have to cut them off just because I am, I said. This is my choice. You can still have a relationship with them if you want. They stole from me too, Brianna said, her voice breaking. And they let me attack you when you were right all along. They turned me into their weapon against you. I'm done being their tool. I'm done being manipulated. If you're out, I'm out. We hugged in the parking lot, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, we felt like real sisters, united, seeing clearly, free. Over the next 2 weeks, I focused on my move. I gave notice to my landlord. I organized movers. I said goodbye to friends and colleagues in Phoenix. My father recovered and went home from the hospital. My parents tried reaching out through various intermediaries, but I ignored them all. Troy called from different numbers, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate. I deleted them all without listening to the full messages. 1 week before my move, my mother showed up at my office. Security had to escort her out. She was screaming in the lobby. You're killing your family. You're destroying us. You're a monster. Coworkers stared. It was humiliating, but I held my head high and went back to work. That night, Troy showed up at my apartment, drunk. He pounded on the door, yelling, You think you're better than me? You're not. You're just bitter and alone. You'll always be alone because you're cold and heartless, and nobody will ever really love you. I called the police. They arrested him for trespassing and public intoxication. My mother called from the police station 2 hours later, screaming, "Look what you've done to your brother. You had him arrested." What kind of sister does that? The kind who sets boundaries and enforces them, I said calmly. Tell him if he comes near me again, I'll file for a restraining order. She cursed at me, called me names I won't repeat, then hung up. The next morning, I received a certified letter via courier. It was from a law firm representing Stephanie's family. They were suing Troy and his family for fraud, emotional distress, and financial damages related to the canceled wedding. They were seeking $150,000 in damages. The lawsuit named Troy as the primary defendant, but it also named my parents as co-defendants, arguing they'd enabled Troy's behavior and were jointly liable for his fraudulent actions leading up to the wedding. The letter was clear. Deanna Baker was explicitly excluded from the lawsuit because she'd had no involvement in Troy's fraud or the wedding planning, but her parents and brother were being held accountable. My phone rang 30 seconds after I finished reading the letter. It was my mother, her voice shrill with panic. You have to help us fight this. We'll lose everything. The house, our savings, everything. You have to help us get a lawyer. You have to testify on our behalf. You have to do something. No, I said simply. What do you mean, no? We're being sued. We're going to lose everything. You enabled Troy's fraud. You covered up his theft from Grandma's estate. You've protected him from consequences his entire life. Now you're facing those consequences. That's not my problem. That's justice. How can you be so cruel? How can you just stand by and watch us be destroyed? The same way you stood by and watched me be excluded, diminished, and erased my entire life, with indifference. She started screaming then, her voice incoherent with rage. I waited until she ran out of breath. Are you done? I asked calmly. I curse the day you were born, she shrieked. You're dead to me. Do you hear me? You're dead to me. Good, I said. The feeling's mutual. Goodbye, Mother. I hung up and blocked the number. Then I sat in my nearly empty apartment, surrounded by packed boxes, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Peace. Complete, total peace. I moved to Seattle on a crisp October morning. The moving truck pulled away from my Phoenix apartment at dawn, and I followed in my car, driving north through Arizona, into Nevada, through Oregon, finally arriving in Washington 2 days later. My new apartment had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. I could see mountains in the distance. The air smelled like rain and pine and possibility. My first month in Seattle was a whirlwind. I started my new job, met my team, impressed my clients, quickly proved I'd been the right choice for the promotion. My colleagues were welcoming and professional. Nobody knew my history. Nobody knew about my toxic family. I was just Deanna, the sharp financial consultant from Phoenix who was going to help grow the Seattle branch. I made friends slowly. I joined a book club. I started hiking on weekends. I explored the city, fell in love with the coffee culture, learned to appreciate gray skies and rain as atmospheric rather than depressing. I was building a life that was entirely mine, untainted by family obligation or dysfunction. Brianna visited for Thanksgiving. We cooked together in my tiny kitchen, laughed over burnt rolls and lumpy gravy, watched the parade on TV, took selfies with the Space Needle in the background. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd ever had. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no wondering when someone would say something cruel disguised as a joke, just two sisters enjoying each other's company. During her visit, Brianna told me she'd confronted our parents about the stolen inheritance one more time. She'd demanded they pay her back. They'd said they couldn't, that they didn't have the money, so she'd gone no contact too. She'd blocked their numbers, unfriended them on social media, told our extended family she was done. Do you regret it? I asked her as we sat on my couch, drinking wine and watching the rain. She was quiet for a moment. No. I regret not believing you sooner. I regret wasting years defending them. But cutting them off? That was the healthiest thing I've ever done. I feel lighter, freer, like I can finally breathe. I squeezed her hand. I know exactly what you mean. Over the following months, I heard occasional updates about my family through the extended family grapevine. Cousin Madison would text me sometimes, keeping me informed without judgment. The lawsuit had been settled out of court. My parents and Troy had to pay $75,000 to Stephanie's family. They'd liquidated what remained of my parents' retirement accounts to cover it. They'd sold the house and moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of Phoenix. Troy was living with them. All 3 of them were miserable, from what Madison heard. Cramped space, financial stress, constant arguing. Troy had apparently gotten sober and was working part-time at a grocery store. He was genuinely trying to turn his life around. My parents had aged dramatically. My father's health was declining. My mother had become bitter and isolated, having alienated most of her friends and extended family with her constant complaints about her ungrateful daughter. In March, 6 months after I'd moved to Seattle, I received a long message from Troy. It was sent through a platform I hadn't thought to block. The message was different from his previous attempts to contact me. No manipulation, no guilt, no anger, just a straightforward apology. He wrote, "Deanna, I don't expect you to respond to this. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm finally in real therapy, not just going through the motions. I'm sober. I'm working. I'm facing what I've done. And I'm starting to understand how badly I hurt you. Not just with the wedding, but for years before that. I used Mom and Dad's favoritism as permission to treat you like you didn't matter. I let them erase you because it benefited me. I stole from you. I lied about you. I excluded you. And then I tried to make you the villain when you finally set boundaries. You deserved so much better. You deserved a brother who saw your value and celebrated your success instead of feeling threatened by it. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, deeply sorry. I hope you've built a good life. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness. Take care of yourself. I won't contact you again unless you reach out first. I'm respecting your boundary." I read the message 3 times. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as another manipulation, but it felt different. It felt genuine, like someone who'd finally hit actual rock bottom and was seeing clearly for the first time. I sat with the message for a week before responding. Finally, I wrote back, "Troy, I appreciate the apology. I believe you're sincere. I hope you continue getting help and building a better life. I genuinely do, but I can't have you in mine. The damage is too deep. The trust is too broken. I need to protect my peace. I wish you well, but from a distance. Take care of yourself." His response was simple. "I understand. Thank you for reading my message. I'm sorry for everything. Goodbye, Deanna." That was the last communication I had with any member of my immediate family. In June, my mother tried one more time to reach out through a family friend who flew to Seattle for a conference. The friend asked to meet me for coffee, and I agreed, thinking it was a professional networking opportunity. Instead, she launched into a prepared speech about how my mother was sorry, how she wanted to reconcile, how family was important, how life was short. I listened politely, then said, "Please tell my mother I forgive her for my own peace, not because she earned it. Tell her I hope she finds happiness, but tell her I don't want a relationship. She can live with her choices the same way I'm living with mine. The difference is, my choices are making me happy." The friend looked disappointed but nodded. She hugged me and said she hoped I'd reconsider someday. I knew I wouldn't. 1 year after moving to Seattle, I was promoted again. I was now a senior director, leading a team of 12, managing high-profile clients, making more money than I'd ever imagined. I'd started dating someone wonderful, a software engineer named Lucas, who was kind and emotionally intelligent and thought I was amazing exactly as I was. I had close friends. I had a beautiful life. I was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. On the 2-year anniversary of not being invited to Troy's wedding, I took myself on a solo trip to Japan. I'd always wanted to go, and I finally had the time and resources to make it happen. I spent 2 weeks exploring Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Nara. I visited temples and gardens. I ate incredible food. I took hundreds of photos. One afternoon, I was sitting in a temple garden in Kyoto, watching koi swim in a pond, listening to wind chimes, breathing in the scent of cherry blossoms. I thought about the girl I'd been 2 years ago. The girl who desperately wanted her family's love and approval. The girl who'd done everything right and still been made to feel wrong. The girl who'd been excluded from her own brother's wedding and told she didn't belong. That girl had died somewhere between Phoenix and Seattle. She'd died in the Mediterranean sun and been reborn in the Pacific Northwest rain. And the woman sitting in this Japanese garden, at peace with herself and her choices, was so much stronger, so much happier, so much more whole. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "They taught me I didn't belong. Turns out, they were right. I didn't belong in their small, cruel world. I belonged somewhere bigger, kinder, better. The best gift they ever gave me was setting me free. They thought exclusion would hurt me. Instead, it saved me. It forced me to see that I'd been trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. It forced me to choose myself. And choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was survival. It was self-respect. It was the bravest thing I ever did." I flew back to Seattle feeling lighter than air. Brianna was waiting at my apartment when I arrived, having flown in to surprise me. We ordered Thai food and spent the evening looking at my photos, laughing and talking and planning our next adventure together. 3 months later, I was at work, leading a major presentation for a potential client worth millions to our firm. I was confident, articulate, commanding the room. After the presentation, my team celebrated. The client had signed with us. It was a huge win. In the bathroom, I checked my phone. There was a message from someone at my old company in Phoenix, a former coworker I occasionally kept in touch with. "Your mom called the office looking for you. She somehow got our main number. Should I give her your contact information?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "No, that door is closed. If she calls again, tell her you don't have my current information." I deleted the message thread, put my phone away, and went back to celebrating with my team. That night, Lucas and I went to dinner at a beautiful restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. We talked about the future, about dreams and goals and possibilities. He told me he loved me. I said it back, and meant it with every fiber of my being. Driving home that night, I thought about everything I'd gained by losing my family: peace, confidence, self-worth, genuine relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation, the freedom to be fully myself without apologizing, the ability to set boundaries and enforce them, the knowledge that I was enough, exactly as I was, without needing anyone's validation or approval. Some people will never see your worth. They'll take and call you selfish for having boundaries. They'll blame you for not saving them from consequences they created. They'll use love and family as weapons to manipulate you into sacrificing yourself for their comfort. But you don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your mental health. You don't owe anyone access to your life. Not even family. Especially not family who treats you like you're disposable. The people who truly love you will show it through actions, not just words. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll celebrate your success. They'll see your value without you having to prove it over and over again. And sometimes, the family you choose is infinitely better than the family you were born into. I chose myself. I chose my peace over their approval. I chose my future over their past. And that wasn't selfish. That was self-preservation. That was survival. That was the most loving thing I could have done for myself. 2 years ago, I wasn't invited to my brother's wedding because I didn't belong at family celebrations. Today, I'm grateful. because that rejection was the push I needed to finally see the truth. I didn't belong in their world. I belonged in a world where I was valued, respected, and loved for who I actually am, where my success wasn't threatening, where my boundaries weren't punished, where my presence was wanted, not tolerated. They set me free, even though that wasn't their intention. And I took that freedom and built something beautiful. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm not holding on to resentment or hoping for their downfall. I simply don't care anymore. They're strangers who happen to share my DNA. Their lives and their choices are no longer my concern. I've moved on completely. And that indifference, that peace, that absolute freedom from caring what they think or feel or do is the greatest gift I've ever given myself. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, if you recognize the dynamics I've described, if you've spent your life trying to earn love from people who've decided not to give it, please hear me. You're not the problem. You never were. And choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's healthy. It's the only way forward. Build a life you love. Surround yourself with people who see you and value you. Set boundaries without guilt. Walk away from toxicity without looking back. You deserve peace. You deserve respect. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions or manipulation or constant proof of your worthiness. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. It's being happy. It's building something beautiful from the ashes of what broke you. It's showing up for yourself the way they never showed up for you. I'm living proof that you can start over, that you can heal, that you can build a life so full of joy and love and purpose that the people who rejected you become nothing more than a chapter in your story. Not the whole book, just one painful chapter that led to better ones. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own peace? How did you navigate that? What did you learn? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about resilience, healing, and choosing yourself. And share this with someone who might need to hear it. You never know whose life you might change by sharing your truth or helping them feel less alone in their struggle. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to understand that sometimes the hardest and bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who are supposed to love you but don't know how. I hope you find your peace, wherever that journey takes you. I hope you build your beautiful life. I hope you learn that you are enough. You always were, and you always will be. Take care of yourselves. You're worth it.